I've been working dispatch for over a decade, long enough to know most calls follow patterns: domestic disputes, car accidents, noise complaints. Even the truly tragic ones like suicides or home invasions, they have a structure, a certain rhythm. But then there are the ones that don't. Calls that twist something in your gut, long before you can put your finger on why. The ones that stay with you, not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. This story is about one of those calls. It was a dead night. I remember because the rain was hammering against the windows of the dispatch center, and most sane people were off the roads. I was sipping cheap coffee, clicking through reports, when the alert chimed. A 911 call. No audio at first, just static. I answered anyway. 911, what's your emergency? Silence, then a voice, childlike, whispering, "It's in the walls." Before I could ask anything else, the line cut to black. The system auto-logged the GPS location, and I stared at the address for a good 30 seconds before calling the supervisor over. St. Augustine Memorial Hospital. It had been shut down for years, boarded up after a fire gutted most of the West Wing. No power, no staff, just rotting equipment and moldy gurneys left behind. We all knew the stories. Everyone in the county did. People swore it was haunted. Kids dared each other to sneak in and film TikToks. But no one had called from inside that building in over a decade. Until that night. My supervisor didn't believe it. Said it was probably a prank. Maybe a call rerouted from a cell tower nearby. I wanted to believe that. God, I needed to. But my hands were already moving, already dialing the sheriff's department. "We've got something strange," I told them. "Might be nothing. Might be a kid playing games." But even as I said it, I felt it. That cold weight in my chest. That instinct I'd learned to trust. Something was wrong in that hospital. The deputies went in less than 30 minutes later. Body cams on, radios active. They didn't find a prankster. They didn't find a single living soul. But they did find the phone, and the call log showed one outgoing call, time-stamped exactly when I'd answered it. Room 304, pediatrics. But here's the part that still haunts me. Room 304 burned down completely in the fire. No roof, no floor, just blackened brick and ash. There shouldn't have been anything, or anyone, left to make that call. And yet, someone did. The next morning I came into the dispatch center earlier than usual. I told myself it was just to get ahead on paperwork. But the truth, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that child's whisper again. "It's in the walls." I kept thinking about that voice, the burned-out room, and the deputies who found the phone lying in a pile of soot that shouldn't have had power, shouldn't have had anything left. The call was supposed to be logged and archived, standard protocol. But I wanted to hear it again for myself. I needed to know if my memory was just playing tricks on me. So I pulled the file, and that's when I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. The audio was longer than I remembered. Not just a whisper and static. The raw file was over 2 minutes. I plugged in my headphones, clicked play, and listened closely. The whisper was there, same as before. Faint, hollow. It's in the walls. Then silence. Except it wasn't complete silence. I boosted the gain, filtered out the static. My breath caught. There were footsteps, slow, deliberate, walking down what sounded like a tiled corridor. Each step echoed faintly, the way they would in a large, empty building. And then, at the 1:34 mark, a sound I can only describe as scraping, metal against metal, like a hospital gurney being dragged. I yanked off the headphones. My hands were shaking. The building had no power, no staff, no equipment left. That's what the official report said. So what the hell did I just hear? I couldn't let it go. I called Deputy Harris, one of the men who went in that night. He sounded groggy when he answered, said he hadn't been sleeping well since the call. Nightmares, whispers in the static of his baby monitor. I didn't even ask. I just played him the raw audio over the phone. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, "We didn't hear any of that when we were inside." I asked if they had body cam footage. He hesitated. "There is footage," he finally said, "but it's weird." He agreed to send me a clip, said it wasn't from room 304. That area was just blackened stone, but from a hallway they passed through near pediatrics. When the email came through, I clicked it immediately. The footage was shaky. Typical low-light police cam quality. Deputy Harris and another officer moving through the hallway. Flashlights cutting through dust and shadows. And then, a bang. Like something heavy, hitting metal. The camera spun toward the sound, catching a glimpse of a door slowly creaking shut about 30 feet ahead. It had no visible handle. Then came the footsteps, but not from the camera's direction. They were behind the officers, closer. The audio crackled with static. Harris called out, asking if anyone was there. His voice was steady, too steady, almost like he was afraid to sound afraid. No response. But the footsteps continued, closer, louder. Then, complete silence. I leaned in, waiting. Harris turned to his partner and said, "We're not alone." And the video glitched. Not the usual digital corruption. This was organic, like something in the footage didn't want to be seen. For 2 full seconds, the screen pulsed, frame skipping, audio warping, and when it returned, they were standing in the exact same hallway, but the door was gone. Just a wall now, smooth, seamless, like it had always been that way. I called Harris again, told him what I saw. He didn't answer for a moment. Then he whispered, "We both remember the door being there, and we both remember something walking through it." "What do you mean?" I asked. He paused. "It wasn't a person," he said finally. "It looked like something wearing a nurse's uniform, but the face..." Click. The call dropped. I tried to call him back. Voicemail. I tried again. Disconnected. I sat there, heart pounding, staring at the footage replaying on loop. And then I noticed something I hadn't seen the first time. In the far corner of the frame, just before the glitch, there was a shape, barely visible, low to the ground, and it was crawling toward the camera. I didn't hear back from Deputy Harris that day. Not a call, not a text. His number stopped working entirely. Out of desperation, I called the station just to check if he was okay. The woman who answered transferred me to the desk sergeant, who paused before saying, "Harris is on leave." I asked what happened. "Personal reasons." That was all she'd give me. But I could hear something else in her voice. Something strained. Like she wanted to say more but couldn't. Or wouldn't. That night I couldn't sleep again. My apartment felt wrong. Too quiet. Too dark. At exactly 3:04 a.m. I wish I was making that up. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. There was no voice. Just static. I was about to hang up when I heard it. A heartbeat. Slow. Heavy. Too loud for a phone speaker. Thump. 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 Then a whisper, almost inaudible. "Room 304. Click." I stared at the screen until it faded to black. The next day, I pulled every report I could find on St. Augustine Memorial, floor plans, incident logs, even old blueprints. Room 304 didn't exist on the most recent layout, but on the blueprints from before the fire, it was there. 3rd floor, pediatric ICU. I printed it out and marked the hallway the deputies had walked through, the one where the door had vanished. Room 304 sat right behind that wall, a part of the hospital that officially didn't exist anymore. I needed more, something concrete. So I drove out there. I told myself I'd just stay in the car. Just look. The hospital was exactly what you'd expect. Graffiti, broken windows, rusted signage. The fence was half collapsed. Crows circled the roof. It felt wrong, like the air was thicker. Dill. I parked at the edge of the lot and zoomed in with my phone camera. That's when I saw it. A light, flickering faintly in a 3rd floor window. Room 304. I couldn't explain it. The hospital had no electricity, but the light was there. A dull, yellow glow, pulsing behind the soot-stained glass. And behind the curtain, a shape, human-shaped, unmoving, watching. I drove home in silence, didn't even turn on the radio. My ears rang with leftover tension, like they were waiting for a sound that hadn't come yet. I tried calling the station again, asked to speak to any other deputy who went on that call. I was told the other responding officer, Martinez, had filed for early retirement the next day. No explanation, no statement, just gone. I hung up and checked the hospital GPS log again. There it was, the outgoing call from room 304. The timestamp matched my memory exactly. But there was something new now. A second call, placed 2 days later. Same number, same coordinates, Same time. 3:04 a.m. But this one had a voice transcript. The system had picked up a short phrase, 4 words. Help me get out. I shouldn't have gone back, but I did. I don't remember deciding. I just remember standing in front of the collapsed fence again, flashlight in hand, the blueprint folded in my pocket. The front doors were chained shut, but a side door hung open. Rotting wood, peeling paint. I stepped inside. The air was cold and metallic, like breathing in a dead battery. Every step echoed through the corridors, bouncing off old gurneys, shattered IV stands, overturned wheelchairs. I made my way to the central stairwell, following the blueprint like it was a map to hell. The 3rd floor was mostly collapsed, beams exposed, ceiling sagging. But the hallway to 304, it was untouched. No graffiti, no rot. The walls were clean, fresh, as if the fire hadn't touched them. The door to room 304 was ajar. A sliver of yellow light spilled into the hallway. I crept closer, heart hammering against my ribs. As I approached, I heard a sound that made my blood freeze. A child, sobbing, soft, broken sobs, coming from inside room 304. I reached out and pushed the door open. The room was pristine, bright white tiles, perfectly made bed, medical monitors softly beeping, and in the center, facing the wall, sat a small figure in a hospital gown. A girl, maybe 8, pale skin, hair matted with ash. She was rocking slowly, back and forth, whispering to herself. I stepped in. The beeping stopped. The light flickered. She stopped rocking, and in the silence, she turned her head, just enough to show her face, and smiled. I don't remember leaving the hospital. One moment I was staring into that girl's lifeless smile. The next, I was sitting in my car, parked on the shoulder a mile down the road. No memory of walking out. My flashlight was on the passenger seat, dead batteries. My phone, still recording. I must have tapped it in my panic. The voice memo was almost 20 minutes long. My hands were trembling when I hit play. The audio began with soft sobbing. Heron. Then the whispering started again. But it wasn't her voice. It was mine. A perfect echo, repeating, I shouldn't be here. It sees me. It knows my name. I stopped the recording, threw up on the side of the road. Back home, I took a hot shower, burned my clothes. I didn't want to bring anything from that place into my apartment, but it had already followed me. That night I heard her, not from my phone, not a dream, from inside the walls. A child's voice, software, repeating the same 3 words. Don't look away. I didn't sleep. I just sat in my living room, every light on, back against the wall so nothing could get behind me. At 3:04 a.m., my TV turned on by itself. No input, just static. Then, The faintest image flickered into view. Security cam footage. Hospital hallway. Room 304. The same angle from Deputy Harris's body cam. Only this time, I was in the frame, standing at the end of the hall, frozen, staring at the door. But I was smiling. That same dead smile the girl wore. I unplugged the TV, yanked the cord out of the wall. The screen stayed on for 5 more seconds, then went black. I needed answers, real ones. So I went to the county records office, told the clerk I was researching for a story, something for the anniversary of the saint, Augustine fire. She barely looked up, said the fire was electrical, a freak overload in the ICU sub-panel. Casualties? 2 nurses, 1 security guard, and 1 patient, a little girl, name sealed due to privacy. I asked if there were photos. She hesitated. There was one, she said. Got pulled from the file years ago, but people made copies. She scribbled a number on a sticky note. Talk to Carl at the local history museum. He's obsessed with that place. Carl was exactly what you'd expect. Heavy set, thick glasses, smelled like newspaper ink and stale coffee. When I mentioned room 304, he stopped mid-sentence. No one ever remembers the room numbers, he muttered. Not unless... He trailed off, then stood and rummaged through a battered file cabinet, pulling out a manila folder labeled Saint, August, Incident. Inside was a photocopy of a photo. A little girl in a hospital bed, holding a stuffed rabbit. Behind her stood a nurse, mid-40s, blonde. Except the face was wrong. Not blurred, twisted. The eyes were too far apart, the mouth too wide, like someone had drawn a smile where one didn't belong. Carl leaned in. Some people think she died in the fire, he said. Others think she was already dead before it started. What do you mean? I asked. They say she was comatose for weeks, he continued, voice low. Hooked to machines. But the night of the fire, someone heard her laughing from inside the room, right before it exploded. I left without the photo. Didn't want it near me. But that night, around 3:04 a.m., I woke to find a printed copy lying on my kitchen counter. No one had been in my apartment. The door was still locked, the windows shut, and underneath the photo, scrawled in a child's handwriting, were 3 words: "We're not done." I took sleeping pills the next night, tried to drown it all out, but I still woke up. Same time, same voice, only now. It was whispering from inside my closet. I opened the door with trembling hands. Empty, but on the floor, a hospital bracelet, plastic, burnt at the edges, and my name on the tag. I didn't go to work, didn't shower, didn't eat. I just sat at my kitchen table, staring at that hospital bracelet. The plastic band was brittle and warped from heat, but the ink was still clear. My full name. First, middle, last. I never wore one. I'd never been a patient at St. Augustine, but somehow This version of me had. I tried to throw it away, dropped it in the kitchen trash. Hours later, it was back on my wrist, snapped closed tight. I went back to Carl. Didn't knock this time. Just burst in, bracelet still on, eyes bloodshot. "Something followed me home," I said. He didn't act surprised. He just pulled a chair out, sat down, looked tired. "How many nights has it been?" "3, I said. He nodded. "It's always 3. Carl poured 2 fingers of whiskey into a coffee mug and slid it toward me. Then he opened a different file, older, yellowed. "A decade ago," he began, "there was a nurse who worked the night shift in pediatrics. Her name was Eloise March, the same one in that photo with the girl." He pulled out an article. Headline: "Nurse perishes in St. Augustine ICU fire." "She wasn't scheduled to be there that night," he said. "She was fired 2 days earlier for..." He paused. "Unprofessional behavior." "What kind of behavior?" I asked. Carl grimaced. "She believed the girl in room 304 wasn't human." My mouth went dry. "She said the child never blinked," he continued. "That the machines registered a heartbeat before the girl ever moved. She claimed the room was feeding off the hospital." He slid another photo across the table. A shot from inside the burned wing. Room 304. What was left of it. Except, in the middle of the charred floor, untouched by fire, stood the child's bed. Perfect. Stainless. Like the flames had avoided it. I asked Carl the question that had been burning inside me. What was she? Carl tapped the bracelet on my wrist. Not a child, a placeholder. For what? His voice dropped to a whisper. For you. I left before he could say anything else. Every streetlight I passed flickered. Every shadow behind my car looked like it moved. That night I locked my doors, turned off all my electronics, unplugged the TV. Still, I woke up at 3:04 a.m., this time to the sound of wheels, a hospital gurney, rolling slowly across tile. I grabbed my phone and opened the voice recorder, but the screen lit up before I touched it. A message appeared. Recording already in progress. I pressed play, my own voice trembling. She's here. Then another voice, not mine, not the girl's. A woman, firm, measured. Time to switch places. Then came the scream. My scream. I woke up on my kitchen floor, drenched in sweat. The bracelet now burned into my skin. Literally fused, blistered. I rushed to the bathroom, grabbed scissors, tried to cut it. It didn't even scratch. In the mirror, I saw something move behind me. Not in the room, in the reflection. A nurse, Eloise. Mouth sewn shut with surgical thread. Eyes black. Hands reaching out, not toward me, but toward my reflection. I collapsed. When I opened my eyes, it was morning. The bathroom was empty, but the mirror was cracked, and on it, drawn with something red and smeared, were 4 words. We buried the wrong one. I had to know what that meant. I drove back to the county morgue, said I was working on a case review. They let me into the archives. It took hours, and then I found it. Nurse Eloise's death certificate. Cause of death: smoke inhalation. Time of death: 3:04 a.m. Body recovered. Found curled around the pediatric bed. But here's what didn't make sense. The autopsy noted no burns, no smoke damage to the lungs. Instead, her heart had stopped abruptly. The medical examiner described her final expression as terror beyond comprehension, and in the notes, barely legible: child's remains unaccounted for, bed intact. They never found the girl's body, because there was no girl, only the thing that wore her face. Back home, my door was open. No sign of forced entry. Inside, on my living room wall, someone had drawn room 304's layout in ash. At the center, my name. Below it, written in a spiral: one must stay, one must switch. The next day I called my mother. I needed something to ground me. A familiar voice, a reminder of who I was before this madness started. "Hey, Ma, it's me." A pause, then, "I'm sorry. Who is this?" I froze. "It's me, your daughter." Another pause. "I don't have a daughter," she said gently, like she was trying not to upset me. "I think you have the wrong number." Then she hung up. I stared at my phone. The call log. My own name. My mother's contact photo. Her number. But she didn't know me. I opened my old high school yearbook, flipped to my senior photo. Blank. My picture. Gone. The name under it? Not mine. I went to my childhood home. Drove 3 hours without stopping, hands clamped so hard to the wheel I left fingerprints in the leather. The neighborhood was still the same. Same houses, same cracked sidewalk. But the mailbox didn't say my last name. I knocked. A woman I didn't recognize answered. She had my mother's eyes, but she looked through me like I was a stranger. I asked if she remembered me. She said, "We've never had kids." I drove back in silence, unable to cry, unable to scream. Everything that had made me me, my name, my face, my family, was being wiped clean. Like something was rewriting my place in the world. Like it had decided I didn't belong anymore. That night, at exactly 3:04 a.m., I stopped resisting. I sat in the middle of my living room, lights off, and waited. The air grew cold. Then the walls began to breathe. Not figuratively. I mean, they inhaled. The wallpaper rippled inward, the drywall expanding and contracting like lungs. From the darkness above, something descended, a silhouette in a nurse's gown. No face, just a mirror where a face should be. And in that reflection, I saw myself, pale, trembling, but not me. A version of me that smiled back. The figure spoke. Its voice was layered, mine. hair and others I didn't recognize. We let you wear the skin, it said. Borrow the memory. Try the life. I whispered. What are you? We are correction. Its fingers lifted and traced something in the air, a glowing sigil that burned my eyes. You were not meant to leave room 304, it said. Then it pointed to the hospital bracelet still fused to my arm. Time to go back. I screamed, told it no, told it I was real. I was me, but it only tilted its head, like a disappointed parent. Then why is no one looking for you? The room rippled again. I was no longer in my apartment. I was in room 304. The white bed, the soft beeping, the pale walls, and I was in the bed. I couldn't move. Tubes down my throat, needles in my arms. A monitor beside me showed a flat line, but my heart still beat. A figure entered the room, not the nurse, the child, the same girl, same gown, same dead smile. She walked to the foot of the bed, stared into my eyes, then whispered, "You took my place." She climbed up onto the mattress and laid on top of me, our faces inches apart. She reached out and placed her hand on my chest. "Time to switch," she whispered. I tried to scream, but I had no mouth. Tried to move, but I had no limbs. I was sinking, falling into her, and she was rising, taking me. And then I was standing in the hospital, outside the bed, looking down at myself, my real body, eyes open, mouth screaming silently, but no sound came out. The girl was gone. So was the nurse. The lights flickered once, then the monitors turned off, and a door opened behind me, leading into blackness. I stepped through it, and now I'm here, back in my apartment. The lights work, the TV plays reruns, the bracelet is gone. I'm me again, a normal life, but something's different. People don't look at me the same. The reflection in the mirror blinks half a second too late, and every night, at exactly 3:04 a.m., I hear footsteps outside my door, and a child's voice whispering, "You're not done yet." I stopped counting the days after a while. I still go to work, still sit at the console in the dispatch center, headphones on, pretending I'm part of this world. But it's all a performance now, a routine, because I know I'm not the same. I don't sleep anymore, not really. I just close my eyes and wait. And every night, I hear her, the girl, in the vents, in the floorboards, in the walls, laughing. I tried to tell someone, a friend at the center, a rookie named Deshawn, told him everything, the call, the hospital, the bracelet, the mirror-faced nurse. He laughed at first, said I should pitch it to Netflix. But when I showed him the hospital photo, the one Carl gave me, with the girl in the bed, he stopped laughing, went pale, said, "I've seen her before." I asked where. He said, "In my dreams. But she's older now, taller, still got that stuffed rabbit, still smiling." The next day, he didn't show up to work. I called his phone. Disconnected. No one remembered hiring him. When I checked the logs, his name wasn't listed anywhere. It was like he'd never existed. The thing is, I'm starting to understand now. Room 304 isn't just a hospital room. It's a threshold, a place where reality is paper thin, where things can slip through. The girl wasn't a ghost, she wasn't a demon. She was a decoy, a vessel, created to draw someone in. Not just someone, me. I found the old recorder buried in my closet last night, still running. Battery long dead, but the screen was glowing. It said, "Recording complete," and underneath, "Transfer successful." I don't remember pressing play, but I heard my own voice again. This time, calmer, resigned. "It's done," the recording said. "They have it now." Then a click. Then the same child's whisper I'd heard from the very beginning. "You were never real." I sat there for a long time, trying to make sense of it, and then I looked down at my hands. They were fading, not metaphorically, literally dissolving into static, like a corrupted VHS tape. Pixels where skin should be. My fingers glitched when I moved them. No pain, just distortion. As if my presence here had reached its expiration date. I ran to the mirror. My reflection wasn't mine anymore. It was hers. The girl, older now, wearing my uniform, wearing my face, smiling. She reached toward the glass, and I felt a cold hand close around my heart. I collapsed, and when I woke up, I was back in the hospital. Only now, I wasn't in room 304. I was in the hallway, a visitor, the kind who walks past without knowing they're part of something deeper. And inside, room 304, through the small, dirty window, I saw her, lying still in the bed, wearing my face, wearing my name, and the monitor beside her was active. Beep, 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 steady, strong, alive. I reached for the door handle, but the door wasn't real. It was painted onto the wall. Just an image, a memory. I turned to leave, but the hallway behind me had vanished. Only darkness remained. And then, a phone rang, loud, jarring, echoing through the black. I walked toward the sound. A single rotary phone sat on a steel table, ringing endlessly. I picked it up, put it to my ear, and a voice said, 911, what's your emergency? I tried to speak, but I didn't have a mouth anymore. I was static, just noise, a glitch, given shape. So I whispered the only thing I could. It's in the walls.